The dust hadn't even settled from Kody Brown's shocking on-camera collapse when the whispers began. Filming was shut down by TLC, the cast was left shaken, and the crew had been ordered to stay silent. But behind the scenes, a far bigger development was brewing, a legal maneuver with the potential to change everything. Welcome back to TLC Uncovered, where we dig into the real drama that's hiding behind the reality. Kody Brown, the woman many people thought had finally moved on from chaos and damage, was planning her most strategic move yet, and this time, it wasn't about love, family, or even reputation. It was about power, legal power. Insiders close to the production claim Kody was furious after seeing how Kody's breakdown was handled by TLC. She wasn't just angry about his actions, she was furious at the network itself. According to one source, Kody felt that the collapse scene wasn't just a meltdown, it was a liability. She believed TLC let it go too far. Over the ensuing weeks, Kody quietly sought out the advice of attorneys. Not divorce lawyers this time, contract specialists. She wanted to protect herself, Janelle, and the children from what she saw as a dangerous spiral, legally and otherwise. Meanwhile, footage of Kody's collapse was causing chaos in the editing rooms. Some producers wanted to air it. Others said it crossed a line. TLC executives reportedly called an emergency meeting caught between ratings gold and possible lawsuits. And that is when Kody made her move. She called in a firm that had experience taking on major entertainment networks, one that boasted of uncovering buried contracts and hidden clauses. Kody wasn't bluffing, says one insider. She was prepared to take TLC to court if that footage ever saw the light of day. It wasn't just about the footage, but the years of manipulation, the selective editing, and the emotional exploitation that Kody claimed had gone too far. The woman who once smiled through heartbreak was now fighting back with the same precision Kody used to control their family. And just when TLC thought they could contain the fallout from Kody's collapse, Kody's legal notice hit their inbox, and everything changed. Because this time, the drama wasn't scripted. This was war. The email hit the TLC executive inbox at 8:42 a.m. on a Tuesday quiet morning, ordinary production day until that subject line appeared. Subject, formal notice, contractual breach and pending legal review. Kody Brown. It was short, clinical, and devastating. Inside, Kody's lawyers accused TLC of breach of contract, emotional negligence, and defamation by intentionally manipulating the narrative. The very words that sent shockwaves across the network floor. Welcome back to TLC Uncovered, where we uncover the stories they don't want you to hear. At first, execs thought it was a bluff. Kody had always played fair, fiery in confessionals, sure, but never combative off-camera. This time was different. She had leverage. Kody's team argued that in airing Kody's breakdown, TLC breached its duty of care, a clause buried in her contract, promising to safeguard her and other cast members from psychological distress or unsafe working conditions. Based on the notice, the aired footage amounted to a breach of that clause. According to one insider from TLC's post-production team, that scene wasn't acting. People were terrified. Cameras didn't stop. Producers froze. Kody wasn't after money. At least, not yet. She wanted control, in particular, of the footage. Her lawyers wrote letters demanding confirmation in writing that the collapse scene would never air. Lawyers were scrambling at TLC. They had a problem. That footage was gold, raw, emotional, viral gold. Airing it would mean record-breaking viewership. But not airing it meant acknowledging liability. An emergency conference call was scheduled with the legal head of TLC, 2 executive producers, and the PR team. One source close to the meeting told TLC Uncovered they were panicking. Kody's letter wasn't just legal pressure, it was a warning shot. If they ignored it, she'd take it public. Meanwhile, Kody maintained silence strategically. No social media posts, no interviews, just a silence so calm and collected that it made everybody else squirm. In her private circle, however, she was reportedly furious. She'd seen Kody spiral for years, but this was the first time TLC couldn't hide behind editing. While Kody recovered behind closed doors, Kody was planning her next move, turning one legal letter into a full-scale contract revolution for every cast member on Sister Wives. Because once you fight Kody and actually win, you start to see how powerful you really are. And Kody was only getting started. By the time word of Kody's legal notice reached Kody Brown, the man was already in recovery mode, physically fine, but emotionally wrecked. He'd been told to rest, avoid public comments, and most importantly, let the lawyers handle it. But Kody being Kody, that last part didn't stick. Welcome back to TLC Uncovered, where we pull the curtain back on the chaos hiding behind reality TV perfection. One insider close to the situation says Kody was livid when he heard Kody had gone to lawyers before talking to him. To him, that was betrayal all over again, first the divorce, now this. He allegedly stormed into a private TLC conference call demanding to know why Christine was allowed to ruin his reputation. Reportedly, one producer even muted him mid-rant. He wouldn't stop shouting about how she was weaponizing his pain. But Christine didn't need to say a word, the footage spoke for itself. Because for the first time in over a decade, TLC had something Kody couldn't control: raw evidence. The breakdown, the outburst, the crew's panic, all on film. And in the world of contracts, that kind of footage can turn into leverage overnight. Christine's lawyers knew that. They weren't just protecting her, they were building a case. Each line in that letter served a purpose: breach of duty, workplace distress, emotional harm. And here's where it got interesting. They requested a full review of Kody's behavioral record during production. That meant emails, memos, crew testimonies. If even one instance showed TLC ignored warning signs, Christine's case wouldn't just be about one meltdown, it would be about a pattern. An internal memo obtained by TLC uncovered instructed producers to review all previous incidents of cast member behavior during stressful filming situations. In other words, TLC was quietly building its own defense, and that meant investigating Kody too. Behind the scenes, it became a war of silence. TLC lawyers called Christine's move strategic positioning. Kody called it revenge. But the truth was far simpler. For once, Christine was using the system that exploited her, and she was winning. Meanwhile, Janelle reportedly stepped in to support her old friend. As one insider said, Janelle wasn't part of the legal filing, but she was ready. If Christine's move worked, the rest of the cast could follow. She called it the reset, the moment they stopped being TLC's puppets. For years, Sister Wives had thrived on heartbreak, edits, and tears. Now it was about contracts, clauses, and accountability. She had turned the collapse that embarrassed Kody into a legal trap he couldn't escape, and TLC knew they were caught in the middle. The next move, however, did not come from Christine. It would come from the network, and it would be brutal. By Friday morning, the atmosphere inside TLC's headquarters was described as pure panic and business casual. The network had weathered scandals before: cheating allegations, cast walkouts, social media chaos, but this was different. This was legal. Welcome back to TLC Uncovered, where we go beyond the cameras to reveal what really happens when the network starts sweating. At 9 a.m., an emergency boardroom meeting was called. Attending, the executive producer of Sister Wives, two heads from TLC's legal department, a representative from Discovery Network, and one very nervous PR director clutching a stack of possible responses. The meeting was blunt. Christine's letter wasn't being ignored anymore. It had to be answered. According to one insider, the mood turned icy the second the legal team spoke. They said, if we don't act carefully, we could be dealing with a public relations nightmare and a lawsuit that sets a precedent for every cast member we've ever filmed. The big question on the table: should TLC give in to Christine's demands and pull the footage, or risk airing it and face the fallout? The argument went in circles. The finance team pointed out that the meltdown scene could spike ratings by 40%. The PR director countered that the backlash could destroy the network's image as safe family programming. Then someone dropped the real bombshell. A producer revealed that Christine's legal team had also contacted TLC's parent company, Discovery Network, skipping the usual chain of command. In legal terms, that meant Christine wasn't bluffing. She was escalating. For the first time in years, TLC wasn't holding the cards. One of the executives reportedly said, "We created this storm. We built Kody's ego, we framed the narrative, and now the person we underestimated, Christine, has the power to end it." Meanwhile, Kody himself was completely unaware that his name was now on internal legal documents titled High-Risk Liability Case. Producers were instructed to review all raw footage of the collapse to determine if crew intervention was delayed. The reason? If the network didn't act fast enough to protect Kody or Christine, it could be seen as negligence. To make matters worse, one assistant leaked that several crew members had already begun speaking anonymously to podcast hosts, confirming that the meltdown scene was very real and very disturbing. TLC's PR department went into lockdown. Phones confiscated, emails monitored, NDAs reissued. Every word spoken about the collapse had to be cleared by legal counsel. But it was already too late. The internet was buzzing. Reddit threads, Twitter spaces, TikTok theories, all asking the same question: what really happened when the cameras stopped rolling? And just when TLC thought it could contain the chaos, Christine did something nobody expected. She broke her silence. Not in a press release, not in an interview, but in a single, strategic move that made headlines worldwide. For days, Kody Brown had been silent. No comments, no cryptic posts, nothing to hint at the legal hurricane brewing behind the scenes. Fans were growing restless, speculating, debating, guessing. Then, on a calm Sunday morning, she finally spoke. Welcome back to TLC Uncovered, where silence means strategy, And one post can rewrite the entire Sister Wives story. At exactly 10:32 a.m., Christine uploaded a single image to her Instagram account, a soft, filtered photo of her sitting on a porch, pen in hand, notebook open. The caption read, "When you've been silenced long enough, the truth becomes your loudest voice." No names, no hashtags, no mention of TLC or Kody. But fans knew exactly what it meant. Within minutes, the post exploded. Comments poured in, thousands of them. "Is this about Kody's collapse? We stand with you, Christine. TLC better lawyer up." By the end of the day, Christine's post had over 500,000 likes, trending under hashtag Christine Brown Truth. News outlets picked it up. Entertainment blogs started calling it Christine's quiet rebellion. But the timing of that post wasn't emotional, it was tactical. Just 24 hours earlier, TLC had sent Christine's legal team a counteroffer, a carefully worded statement promising to review the broadcast content in good faith. Translation? They were trying to stall. Christine's response was that post. It wasn't defiance, it was pressure. Public pressure. According to one insider close to her camp, Christine's team knew exactly what they were doing. TLC moves slowly when things stay private. But when the public starts watching, they move fast. And move fast they did. Within hours, TLC's PR team scrambled to issue a clarification statement. It was short and vague, claiming, "TLC maintains the highest ethical standards in the production of all its programming and values the well-being of every individual involved." But the internet wasn't buying it. By evening, fans had dug up old behind-the-scenes stories, cast fatigue, manipulative editing, emotional exploitation, and now, they were linking it all to Kody's collapse. TLC found itself trending for all the wrong reasons. Headlines blared, "Christine Brown's Instagram sparks TLC scandal, Kody collapse fallout, is Sister Wives facing cancellation?" Fans demand TLC release the truth. Meanwhile, Kody reportedly flipped. Insiders claimed he was calling producers non-stop, demanding Christine delete her post, even threatening legal action of his own. But his lawyers advised against it. If he sues, one of them warned, he validates her claims. Christine had done what no one else ever managed, she silenced Kody Brown, with a single caption. And while TLC scrambled to control the narrative, Christine's legal team was already preparing Phase 2. A move that would not only expose the network but could bring the entire Sister Wives franchise to its knees. Christine's Instagram post was a warning shot, what came next was the explosion. Behind closed doors, her legal team had been quietly compiling something far more powerful than a social media statement, evidence. Welcome back to TLC Uncovered, where we pull the mask off reality TV and show you what the cameras never did. For years, Sister Wives had been sold as a story about family, faith, and freedom. But according to Christine's attorneys, the contracts told a very different story, one built on manipulation, control, and silencing the cast when things went wrong. Sources close to the situation revealed that Christine's legal team obtained multiple versions of the Sister Wives cast contracts from past seasons, and what they found was disturbing. Clause 7b. Network reserves the right to portray all content in a manner deemed fit for narrative continuity. Clause 9c. Participant waives rights to emotional distress claims resulting from production edits or scheduling. Clause 10a. All disputes to be handled privately through binding arbitration, barring public disclosure. In plain English, TLC could twist the story any way they wanted. They could turn heartbreak into entertainment, arguments into episodes, and real emotional pain into content. And if the cast ever pushed back, their contracts muzzled them. Christine's lawyers argued that these clauses violated basic ethical standards, especially after Kody's on-set collapse. They claimed TLC knew about Kody's deteriorating mental state and continued to film anyway, pushing for authentic breakdown moments to boost ratings. An insider from the production office confirmed this, telling TLC Uncovered, "We were told, keep rolling no matter what. When Kody started yelling, they saw gold, not danger." Christine's legal filing reframed that as exploitation, plain and simple. And here's where it gets messy. TLC's legal team tried to argue that every cast member had consented to these terms years ago. But Christine's lawyers fired back, saying consent didn't excuse negligence. They accused the network of profiting from trauma and creating unsafe emotional environments for participants. The court of public opinion was already forming its verdict, and it wasn't in TLC's favor. Janelle, meanwhile, had Christine's back. She told friends that Christine was fighting for all of them, said one insider. She said, "If this works, we'll finally own our own story." At TLC headquarters, panic turned into damage control. Executives ordered all editors to scrub through raw footage of the collapse scene and remove potentially incriminating material. But word of that got out too, and it made things worse. Fans accused TLC of covering up abuse. Christine's supporters launched a viral campaign, #FreeTheSisterWives. Christine herself remained silent again, but this time, her silence had weight. Everyone knew she was waiting for one thing: TLC's official response. Behind the scenes, the network drafted 3 different statements, all watered down, all rehearsed, all wrong. But when they finally broke their silence, they made a fatal mistake that Christine's team had been waiting for. A single phrase buried in their public response would end up confirming everything. When TLC finally decided to break its silence, executives knew it was a gamble. For nearly 2 weeks, the network had been battered online, buried under hashtags, think pieces, and legal whispers. The audience wanted answers, the cast wanted accountability. The only problem? TLC didn't actually have either. Welcome back to TLC Uncovered, where the truth isn't scripted, it's exposed. On a chilly Wednesday morning, the network posted an official statement to its press site and social media platforms. It read, "TLC remains committed to creating safe, respectful working environments for all cast and crew. We reject any claims of negligence or misconduct during the production of Sister Wives. Any incidents that occurred during filming were handled promptly and with care." It was meant to calm the storm. Instead, it detonated it. The phrase that set everything ablaze? Any incidents that occurred during filming were handled promptly and with care. Within hours, Christine's legal team released their own counter-statement, one that tore TLC's message apart line by line. Handled promptly and with care? The footage itself disproves that claim. Cast members were left emotionally distraught, cameras continued rolling, and crew intervention came only after visible distress was evident. It was sharp, surgical, and public. Social media went into meltdown. Hashtags like #handledwithcare started trending, sarcastically. Fans posted screenshots of Kody's on-air collapse with captions like, "This looks like care to you?" One insider close to TLC's PR department told TLC Uncovered that executives were shocked by how fast Christine's team turned their own words against them. They thought they were releasing a defense, but Christine made it look like a confession. Janelle reportedly called Christine the same night, laughing through disbelief. "You realize they just admitted to filming it," she told her. "That's all we needed." Because here's the kicker, in legal terms, TLC's statement officially confirmed the existence of the incident. Up until that point, everything had been speculation, rumors, anonymous sources, leaked whispers. But now? The network itself had acknowledged it happened. And that one sentence was enough to shift Christine's case from potential claim to verifiable event. Behind the scenes, panic mode turned to crisis mode. TLC's legal division sent out an immediate internal memo labeled Operational Silence. No producer, no crew member, not even the cast, was allowed to comment publicly without written approval. But you can't stop a storm with silence, not when the fans smell blood. Within 48 hours, more leaks surfaced. Crew members started sharing anonymous testimonies with entertainment podcasts. One claimed producers were told to keep rolling even when cast were in visible distress. Another said, "We were instructed not to intervene unless a physical injury occurred." Emotional breakdowns? That was considered part of the show. TLC's credibility was crumbling in real time. And as the chaos spread, Kody's behavior behind the scenes made things even worse. Insiders say he was furious, calling executives, shouting about being humiliated, threatening to end the show himself. At one point, he allegedly told a producer, "You used me like a circus animal." The irony was brutal. The man who'd spent years demanding control over his image now couldn't stop the world from seeing his worst moment, and the woman he once dismissed as too emotional was the one holding all the power. TLC's response was supposed to close the case. Instead, it confirmed everything Christine had been saying all along. And now, the network's lawyers had to face the one thing they feared most, a formal legal filing. Because Christine wasn't done yet. She was about to make it official. It happened quietly, then all at once. Kody Brown, the woman who once smiled her way through heartbreak, officially filed her lawsuit against TLC and Discovery Network. What started as one letter of warning had evolved into a full-scale legal war. Welcome back to TLC Uncovered, where truth doesn't hide behind contracts. At 9:15 a.m., Christine's attorney filed the case in Utah's district court, citing intentional infliction of emotional distress, breach of contractual duty, and unethical labor practices. The filing didn't just name the network, it listed specific producers and department heads who allegedly allowed unsafe filming conditions to continue even as Kody Brown visibly unraveled. The filing itself was a masterclass in legal precision. It included timestamps, crew call sheets, and eyewitness notes from the day of Kody's collapse. One line stood out in bold print: filming continued for 14 minutes after cast distress was visibly evident. Production failed to intervene. That single sentence became the quote of the day on every entertainment outlet in America. TLC's response came within hours, another sterile, corporate statement insisting that the network disputes the characterization of events and intends to vigorously defend its reputation. But that didn't matter. Because for the first time ever, Christine's truth was public record. And the ripple effect was instant. The other Sister Wives cast members, Janelle, Mary, and even Robin, were contacted by journalists for comment. Janelle stayed loyal to Christine, reportedly saying, "She's doing what needed to be done. Someone had to." Mary gave a cryptic no comment, though insiders say she'd privately expressed support. And Robin? She broke down in tears during a phone call with producers, asking if the show was over for good. Meanwhile, Kody was spiraling. Insiders close to him revealed that he was furious, not just at TLC, but at Christine. He allegedly called her lawsuit an ambush and accused her of ruining his name for good. But according to multiple crew members, he'd done that himself long before Christine filed anything. As media coverage exploded, TLC's once loyal fanbase started turning. Hashtags like #JusticeForChristine and #TLC Accountability trended for days. Petitions emerged demanding TLC release an apology and pay the cast fair compensation. Behind closed doors, TLC's legal counsel held marathon meetings, discussing whether to quietly settle or fight back in court. But Discovery Network wasn't so sure. Executives at the parent company reportedly feared the scandal could trigger a review of all their reality TV programs, especially those involving emotional family dynamics. Christine's lawsuit wasn't just a personal victory, it was a crack in the entire system. And as her legal team prepared to depose key TLC staff, something unexpected happened: a leak. An internal email chain between two producers surfaced, and what it revealed was so damning that it changed the case overnight. It proved that TLC knew about Kody's mental state before the collapse, and filmed anyway. When the leak hit the internet, it didn't come from an influencer or a tabloid, it came from inside the network itself. Late one night, screenshots began circulating across Reddit and Twitter, showing internal TLC emails between two senior producers. The subject line was chillingly simple: Kody Brown, management concerns versus content potential. Welcome back to TLC Uncovered, where we reveal what they thought would stay buried forever. The emails were dated just 3 days before Kody's on-camera collapse. In them, one producer warned, "Kody's not stable." Crew noticed agitation, pacing, unprovoked outbursts. Recommend pausing filming for health and liability reasons. The reply came just 9 minutes later, and it was damning. Noted. Let's keep filming. This tension could make great content. We'll manage the risk if it escalates. That single exchange, 2 sentences, changed everything. It proved exactly what Christine's lawsuit claimed. TLC knew Kody was breaking down and chose to exploit it for views. The network's denial crumbled overnight. Every major entertainment outlet picked up the story. People magazine, TMZ, Entertainment Tonight, and even The Hollywood Reporter ran headlines like, "TLC ignored warnings before Kody Brown's collapse, emails reveal." Christine's lawyer, without naming names, confirmed the authenticity of the emails, calling them a disturbing glimpse into the industry's priorities. Behind the scenes, TLC went into full damage control. The executives demanded an internal investigation, but that only made things worse. Employees began leaking more call sheets, meeting notes, scheduling changes. One document even showed a memo titled "Crisis Footage Retention Policy," implying that TLC had procedures for handling meltdowns caught on camera. Fans didn't just see a network anymore, they saw a machine. A machine that fed on pain and spun it into primetime drama. Meanwhile, Christine stayed composed. Her attorney released one line that became iconic: "When you ignore warnings for the sake of ratings, you don't get to call it entertainment, you call it negligence." Kody's reaction, however, was explosive. According to insiders, he called multiple producers, screaming that TLC had set him up to fail. For once, people agreed with him, but the sympathy didn't last. Because when the emails leaked, another revelation came to light. One of the producers involved was the same person who had convinced Christine to stay on the show after her divorce, promising her she'd be portrayed fairly. That betrayal stung the most. Janelle later told friends she couldn't believe it. "We trusted them," she said quietly. "And they were gambling with our lives like it was just another episode." The fallout was immediate. Sponsors began pulling ads. Discovery Network's stock dropped slightly. And within 72 hours, TLC's top brass ordered the removal of 3 producers, including one of the email authors. But it wasn't enough. The damage was done. The emails had exposed the truth behind the curtain, and now, the lawsuit had enough ammunition to go from scandal to courtroom showdown. And while TLC scrambled to rebuild its image, Christine prepared for the one thing she'd never had before: a chance to tell her story, her way. The world would soon hear it, in front of cameras, on her own terms. The day of the hearing felt eerily calm, the kind of stillness that comes before a storm that will never be forgotten. Christine Brown, dressed in a soft gray suit, walked up the courthouse steps flanked by her legal team and Janelle at her side. Behind them, reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, and fans chanted, "We stand with Christine." Welcome back to TLC Uncovered, where history was made, and justice finally caught up with reality TV. Inside the courtroom, tension crackled like static. On one side sat Christine, calm, focused, resolute. On the other, TLC's lawyers, an army of corporate suits armed with folders, statements, and excuses. Kody Brown didn't attend. Sources say he refused, claiming the whole thing was a setup. The evidence was overwhelming. Christine's team presented the leaked emails, the production memos, and the footage logs confirming crew intervention had been delayed. Each document built the case higher, stronger, undeniable. Then came the footage. For the first time, in a private courtroom setting, the judge was shown the raw, unedited collapse scene. The silence in the room was absolute. What started as raised voices quickly devolved into chaos, Kody's breakdown, producers shouting, cameras shaking. And then, the moment Christine's lawyers had been waiting for, a crew member yelling off camera, "Keep rolling." You could hear the gasp ripple through the courtroom. TLC's lawyers tried to object, claiming context was missing, but the judge wasn't buying it. He leaned forward and asked one question: "Did your production team prioritize safety in this situation?" The lawyer hesitated, just long enough to answer the question without saying a word. 2 hours later, the verdict came down like thunder. The court ruled in favor of Christine Brown, citing negligence, emotional harm, and breach of contractual safety obligations. The decision ordered TLC to issue a public apology, pay a 7-figure settlement, and reform all future reality production contracts under a new well-being clause. It was unprecedented, a legal earthquake that shook the entire entertainment industry. Christine didn't gloat. She didn't cry. She simply smiled, thanked her attorneys, and walked out of the courthouse into a sea of flashing cameras. Her only words to reporters were short, but unforgettable. It was never about revenge. It was about respect. That quote alone was replayed across every major network, solidifying Christine Brown not as a reality star, but as the woman who changed reality TV forever. In the weeks that followed, TLC quietly announced that Sister Wives would go on indefinite hiatus. Several producers resigned, and Discovery's board implemented new policies for cast protection across all shows. Meanwhile, Christine launched her own podcast titled Beyond the Edit, where she promised to tell the truth behind reality TV storytelling. The first episode broke records, becoming one of the most streamed debuts in podcast history. Kody Brown, however, faded from the public eye. His social media accounts went dormant, and his once devoted following dwindled. Sources say he lives quietly now, away from cameras. The man who once demanded control of every frame now can't stand the sound of a camera shutter. As for TLC, the ripple effects continue. The network that built its empire on human drama now faces a reckoning it can't edit away. Christine's courage didn't just win her freedom, it gave a voice to every person ever manipulated for entertainment value. And that's the story the cameras were never supposed to tell. This has been TLC Uncovered, bringing you the truth behind the spotlight. Until next time, remember, what you see on TV isn't always the whole story.